Morning, everyone. Welcome to your neighborhood Unitarian Universalist congregation. My name is Suzanne Mazars. I have your life of the community, all the things we're up to. Tax receipts and gifts in kind receipts have been sent. If you have not received yours, check your spam or contact our office administrator, Hala, at office@nuc.ca, and she will make sure to get it to you. Thank you all for your donations to our community. We're still putting together some potluck groups for folks to meet and share meals and time and fellowship. We held our first on Friday with at least 2 more coming up in March, and we'd love to have even more. We're looking for 3 or 4 more people to host meals in your home for members and friends. You pick the time, everyone else brings the food. Sign-up sheets are under the screen in the cappuccino room. Whether you are a host or a participant, sign up for a meal so we can meet. And you can talk to Moira, who's on my right here, if you'd like more info.
And we've got slots for a couple more people for each of the other 2 potlucks that are already planned, so sign up.
So if you want to join a potluck, you can sign up. That's one that's already scheduled. Our Social Environmental Action Committee is meeting next Sunday after service in the Rainbow Room maybe, or maybe in here, to plan upcoming actions and things to get involved in. If you have ideas for social or environmental actions, you can talk to Laura, who's a co-chair, and Nancy is here as well, the co-chairs of the C Committee. Pizza will be provided, so you can stay and have lunch. Thanks. Also next Sunday, after the C meeting, we're having our March edition of Circle Music, which is co-facilitated by myself and Jane Lewis. No experience is necessary. It's an improvised singing circle and a whole lot of fun. Just come and try it from 3 to 5 next week. Stitch to Enrich is happening on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of the month from 12 to 3:30 in the Cappuccino Room. That's for the creatives among us to get together and share a table and make your things that you make and meet each other. You can contact Gail if you'd like to learn more, or just drop by. You don't need to sign up. Does Canada deserve Trump? A thought-provoking discussion with Michael Adams. This is a speaker invited as a part of our Danforth Multi-Faith Commons, which includes us, East End United, and the Danforth Jewish Circle. That's happening here in Rafos Hall on March 26th at 7 p.m. It's all ages movie time, presented by Julia and myself. Bring yourself. Bring a friend, bring your family, enjoy popcorn, hot chocolate, tea and treats, crafts and games here in Rafos Hall on March 15th in the evening from 6:30 to 8:30. We'll bring out cushions and pillows and hang out and have a movie night together. More info from Julia at dll@nuc.ca, or talk to Julia after. And we continue our exploration of the theme of interdependence next Sunday with the next installment of our series of Exploring the World Religions with Peter Marmorek, this time on the earth-centered traditions. Kim and Peter will be speaking. Music will be provided by Kim and Olga and myself. Our service weaver will be Allison, and Time for All Ages with Julia.
Thank you, Suzanne.
You're welcome.
And welcome to our Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist congregational service, whether you are here with us in person or joining us through Zoom. I start by acknowledging that the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations are the treaty holders of this land, and that the Wendat, Anishinaabeg, and Haudenosaunee Confederacy lived here before me and are living here now together with other First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. offer my gratitude to our First Nations for their teachings about all our relations, which means everything. I lift up these Indigenous teachings about interdependence because all First Nations live that, both within their communities and within nature. Nature is part of us. There is no separation. And that's a teaching much needed these days. I'm Peter Marmorek, and I have the pleasure of being your service weaver this morning. We start today's service by creating a sacred space. I invite you to join me in reading our invocation. Let us cast the circle of a sacred space here. Let us cast the circle of a cherished space here. A space of safety, a place of forgiveness, a place of love. If we want the world to change, we must craft in our space and in ourselves the seeds that grow a different kind of life. A life of graciousness, of creative intelligence, a place of life and spirit for ourselves and our families. Our chalice will be lit today by Wendy Oakham. Instead of lighting it anew, we've started a new tradition. We take the light from the children's flame and then pass it on to the chalice. In this way, we are hopefully inspired to keep our own children's fire alight in our hearts. The prelude.
Yes. I invite the Spirit Choir to the risers while I do the introduction. Morning, everyone. Our prelude this morning is Saufa Nabkahuna. It comes to us from a Libyan student doctor, written for his graduation ceremony in 2005. We'll just be singing the chorus of it this morning. It has become an anthem in the Middle East and North Africa, first in the Arab Spring Uprising of 2011, and more recently, doctors and journalists have gathered to sing it together in Gaza. You can see some videos of doctors and journalists singing this song. In this interdependent web, of which we are a part, healthcare workers play an irreplaceable role. Here in Ontario, I have been an activist around making sure we keep healthcare public in Ontario and believe healthcare is a universal right. So in honor of those Palestinian healthcare workers who refuse to leave their patients, their samud, which means their steadfastness, despite the bombings, the hospital raids, the lack of access to medical supplies, clean water, or electricity, I dedicate our singing of this song this morning.
And now we continue in sacred space with the profound help of those many staff and volunteers who have created this service. At your back right, we have a wriggle room from which you can hear, but in which you cannot be heard. The room has a couch for some and toys for others, although really if you want to use both the couch and the toys, you can do that too. Assisted listening devices are available at the sound desk if you would like to try those out. Unitarians are open to many beliefs, and at our best, we learn from many traditions. We welcome all people who are looking for a spiritual community, and it is a deep pleasure to see how many new people are finding us. If you are visiting us for the first time, we welcome you and encourage you to stay after service for coffee time in what's called the cappuccino room, although it's named after two great donors from our congregation, not after the beverage, which in fact we don't have, just regular coffee. We must talk about getting a milk foamer in. Take a red mug if you're interested in talking to us about neighborhood. And our services do vary a lot from week to week. So this will be a wonderful service, but it won't be a typical service because no service is a typical service. And we encourage you to sample several to get a better feel for it. The two rooms at the back right, the wiggle room and the one next to it, will be open after service if you find the noise in the cappuccino room not conducive to having the kind of conversation you'd like to have. Our mission at Neighborhood is to empower spiritual growth and shared action for the care of our world. Our theme this month, and by month I mean 6 weeks, is interdependence. The monthly slide that's now up suggests the theme. It's a series of jigsaw pieces of different colors that fit together to create a strong and solid whole. Today, it's a deep joy to have neighborhood friend Rev Lynn Harrison here to explore how we stay connected in times of challenge that may leave us feeling broken. That's obviously a painfully relevant topic these days. I know how many of the dear friends I talk to from day to day are feeling isolated and scared. But much of the reading I've done about this, from rabble to rabbis, suggests that the first step to wholeness is being in community, in being in sacred space. This is the second day of Ramadan, when the Ummah, the global Muslim community, comes together through shared fasting. So I was thinking, how do Unitarians do this? While I was listening to a CBC Ideas talk by the wonderful Canadian anthropologist Wade Davis. Wade is talking about the divine, and this is what he says. We will the divine into being. Our spirit and imagination transform an edifice of stone into a sacred space. A shrine is sanctified by the legacy of all those who have come before, with their hopes, fears, promises, and prayers. So what sanctifies this place is the legacy of all the people who've come before, with their hopes and fears, promises, and prayers. And as I heard this, I thought, this is something we do every week at Neighborhood, through joys and concerns. We create sacred space by sharing our hearts. As the lovely Swedish proverb puts it, shared joy is double joy, shared sorrow is halved sorrow. And now it's time to greet your neighbors. After you've greeted a few, don't forget to have a wave for those people who are joining us on Zoom. Suzanne will sound a chime to end.
if you would, if you can, if you want to. Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to be. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. And then those wish ahs are the sound of the ancestors' breath. Za, whoosh, ah, whoosh, za, whoosh, ah, whoosh.
I needed some water after all those bum bum ba-dee-da-dums. So this is the time for all ages, and today I have some poetry to present to you because I haven't done that yet. And I love poems. I love the way they allow you to, if you want, break all the rules, and just you can have fun. You can go wild. You know, they're a good way to get ideas out in a rush. You know, and I chose these particular poems because I feel as though they're like different voices calling us to connect with each other in different ways. So, could we have the first slide, please? This is called You and I by Mary Ann Hoberman. Only one I in the whole wide world, and millions of you. But every you is an I into itself. And I am a you to you too. But if I am a you, and you are an I, and the opposite also is true, it makes us both the same somehow. Yet it splits us each in two. It's more and more mysterious the more I think it through. Every you, everywhere in the world is an I, and every I in the world is a you. Could we have the next slide? This as well is by Mary Ann Hoberman, and it's called Messages from Everywhere. Light up our backyard, a bird that flew 5,000 miles is trilling 6 bright notes. This bird flew over mountains and valleys, and tiny dolls and pencils of children I will never see. Because this bird is singing to me, I belong to the wide wind, the people far away who share the air and the clouds. Together we are looking up into all we do not own. And we are listening. Can we have the next slide? So I tried to give you a variety of poetry. This is called Appreciation Equations by Betty Shillington. Family plus friends plus love equals thankful heart. Kindness equals a better world. Hello divided by new kid equals hope. Mountains plus trees plus oceans plus sun equals nature's gifts for everyone. Now this slide, I want to say something about it before I read this poem. So the US-Canadian border is the longest in the world, and one day in 1953, a group of 35,000 people gathered at one point in the border. Not to cross over, they gathered at the Canadian side, and it wasn't to cross over, but it was to listen to one single voice, and that voice belonged to Paul Robeson, who is he was in the movies, he was a singer, beautiful baritone voice, and advocate. And the U.S. State Department had taken away his passport because of his outspokenness and his advocacy. So he stood on the U.S. side, and all this huge group of people the Canadians stood on the Canadian side, and the U.S. border guards, they couldn't stop his voice from traveling into Canada. So he sang, he put on a concert. And I just want to read to you what he told the Canadians. It seems that nothing can keep me from my beloved friends in Canada. It seems so simple that all people should live in dignity and friendship. Simple, you know? So here is a poem that Mary Ann Halberman, again, wrote about Paul Robeson. It's called Cross That Line. Paul Robeson stood on the northern border of the USA and sang into Canada, where a vast audience sat on folding chairs waiting to hear him. He sang into Canada. His voice left the USA when his body was not allowed to cross that line. Remind us again, brave friend, what countries may we sing into? What lines should we all be crossing? What songs travel toward us from far away to deepen our days? Just like the song that the choir sang. And the next one is called I Need You, Need Me by Laura Purdy Salas. All the world coordinates. I need you, need me. Friends and strangers, families, mates. Tree needs breath, needs tree. In partnership, earth celebrates. Sea needs rain, needs sea. We braid one rope, combine our fates. All the world coordinates. I need you, need me. And the last one is called New Kid at School. Where did you come from? Far away. Miss your friends every day. Where do you live? Maple Street. What's your name? Call me Pete. How old are you? Just turned 8. You like hoops? Yeah, great. Got any friends? Nope, not yet. Wanna play? You bet. Thank you.
Are we? Okay. Children grow in spirit. Children grow in spirit. Grow in spirit, children. Grow in spirit, children. Grow in spirit, grow in spirit, grow in spirit.
As we, at all ages, continue to grow in the Spirit, let's take some time now for quiet meditation or contemplation, just to let everything that has been offered in the service so far settle in and nourish us. I invite you to find a balanced way of sitting in your chair. Rest your feet on the floor, connecting you to the earth, to all things that make up this planet and universe, all things, all beings. Take a breath in and out, finding your own rhythm. In the spirit that breathes us, we breathe in, but we are breathed. And as we connect with this space and time in peace, I invite you to simply offer loving attention both to your own beating heart and also to all things and all beings that extend in circles out to each side, in front and behind us, above and below us. Just rest in the interdependence of being the one, but also being part of the oneness. We will sit in silence or quiet for several moments, and then there will be music. Just let that music be part of your meditation time. Let it wash over you. As we come back together again after that beautiful musical blessing and meditation, I invite you to move in whatever way is comfortable for you. You may choose, if you like to stretch a little bit. And if you do, that might connect you to an image that I'm going to share with you in a moment. Just be in the space. A few weeks ago, I was walking east along Gerrard Street, about a kilometer south of here, when I noticed a flock of birds performing impressive acrobatic moves high above me. I wasn't exactly sure what kind of birds they were, probably just pigeons, not considered particularly special birds, but certainly very common here in downtown Toronto. Pigeons are not nearly so esteemed as starlings, the fine feathered beings that create amazing murmurations in other parts of the world. Let us take a few moments now to watch starlings in flight. It's hard to believe that they are individual birds because they seem like one entity moving together. Thank you, Carlos, for sharing that. That was an excerpt from a short film called The Art of Flying by the Dutch filmmaker Jan van Eycken. I myself have never witnessed a murmuration firsthand, but even seeing one on video, I find that I am overcome with a sense of awe and reverence for this world. And I am hopeful somehow that through the mysterious creative process that is life interdependent, that the earth will make it through and heal itself, even if we humans botch it up with our trademark life individualistic. Of course, I don't want to suggest that all human beings live in purely individualistic and competitive ways. There remain, of course, cultures in the world that celebrate and sustain communal values. Arguably, even in our own society here in Canada, we try our best to uphold the common good, even as we also celebrate personal freedom. It may seem frayed around the edges and always fragile. Yet as a country, we value our social safety net, and it may be something for which we are especially grateful these days. The current situation in the United States, now affecting Canada and the rest of the world, is shining a particularly harsh light on the destructive effects of extreme individualism. In response, we're hearing a chorus of voices rising now in loving resistance to affirm values of community, caring, and cooperation. Consider this recent poem by Rosemary Watola Tromer. She offers a daily poem free of charge to the world, which I believe is a particularly graceful and gentle act of personal resistance. The poem is called Even in a Time of Intolerance, and it starts with a quote from the former U.S. Poet Laureate Joy Harjo. She is an Indigenous poet from the Muskogee Nation. We all have a part in shifting the story. There is, in an overfull classroom, a woman teaching not only history, but compassion. There's a barista making hearts in the foam of every cappuccino she serves. There's a man helping another man on crutches as he struggles to cross the icy street. There's a library room full of women chanting about praying for their enemy. There are students raising money to help those with breast cancer and AIDS. 2 girls are laughing for the joy of laughing till their faces are tear-streaked and their ribs and bellies are sore. There's a poet who pours courage and music into every word she shares with the world. And another woman hears these words and thinks, me. That poet is talking to me. This is how we change the world, one kind act, one true word, one long laugh at a time, because now that woman is ablaze with wondering, what is my part in shifting the story? What is my part in shifting the story from brokenness back to wholeness, both in the larger circle of being and within my own heart? In this poem's urban story, it's as if each person is staying aloft by focusing fully on the person right in front of them. I'm reminded of something the Zen teacher John Tarrant once said, that attention is the most basic form of love. Through it, we bless and are blessed. I recall the birds wheeling and diving in perfect alignment, changing course when necessary, taking one final flourishing swirl above the road before swinging down together as one and landing gracefully on the rooftop of Gerrard Square. An everyday miracle, to be sure, but one that did not happen by accident. For in order to execute such brilliant pivots in such unity, each tiny bird had to stay aligned with all of the others. Any individual acrobatic move would have caused a catastrophic multi-bird pileup, injuring many and harming the flock. And so it is with us. We must live interdependently if we are to flourish, and indeed, if we are to survive. It's a lovely metaphor, right? I was pleased with it when I came up with it for this talk. I was. But as I wrote, I realized that it is also a bit problematic. After all, it is relatively easy to focus on the people closest to us and the ones who are most like us. What's more, these patterns of birds of a feather flocking together might seem especially natural and easy to do during times of stress. Recently, the new American vice president defended mass deportations and cuts to foreign aid by claiming that it was a Christian concept to care for the people closest to you first, and then perhaps, extend the circle gradually outward, only eventually, if indeed at all, caring for those who are outside your circle. Now, the Pope immediately weighed in with a pointed statement on this to correct the theology. And I believe he did it from a hospital bed, which says a lot for him, I have to say. He said, of course, that Jesus taught exactly the opposite. We are to welcome the stranger and to care for all of our neighbors. This inclusive theology of radical hospitality is upheld today in our Unitarian Universalist faith, with our emphasis on interdependence, equity, justice, generosity, transformation, and pluralism, with love at the center, uniting and all-encompassing. The theology of interdependence and inclusion makes sense to us, and it speaks to our hearts. In times of stress and crisis such as these, we hear social justice messages rising up that resonate with our UU principles, our UU faith. We recognize them, identify them, and embrace them, yet at the same time, we too may not always be able to live into them. And as much as we may scoff at people who get the theology wrong, we can easily make errors ourselves. For example, as Canada has come under unexpected attack from the new US administration, a natural and right-seeming response has been to fall into us and them thinking. It's as if life is all one big hockey game, and it's not only right but proper to cheer for our team and boo the other's national anthem. Even though the concept of interdependence is central to our spiritual lives, there will be many times when we find deep meaning in our belonging to a particular group, whether it be a family, a nationality, or a particular identity group. And in doing so, it is also possible for us to lose sight of our ultimate interdependence. Sometimes we simply don't have the capacity to widen our perspective that much. And I believe that to be very human. So it's not a matter of beating ourselves up, but rather to notice it. It is part of our being human to notice our groups and our identity while also wanting to live into a wider circle of interdependence. It's a both and. In a recent Dharma talk at the Upaya Zen Center, the writer, activist, and Buddhist Rebecca Solnit spoke of the interdependent marvel of the human body. She reminded us that we're continually taking in and letting go of water, air, and matter. Quote, constantly renewing ourselves with new cells as old cells perish and are swept away. She urged us to think of ourselves as processes rather than objects, to recognize that we are change and interrelationship and interdependence and interbeing. And I'm quoting her. Interbeing being, of course, the term that the great Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh used. I find it helpful, yet also challenging, to shift my gaze, to think of myself as a process rather than a fixed entity. This allows me, though, to recognize when I myself am engaged in highly bordered thinking. It allows me to make a tiny but significant in-flight shift, to understand the process of life as interdependent and ever-changing. As Rebecca Solnit puts it, we are all verbs pretending to be nouns. And as other modern theologians such as Octavia Butler also suggested, God is change. Bringing it back down to earth, to the social justice struggles in which we humans are so frequently engaged, Rebecca Solnit went on in her talk to quote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She used here King's original language. Through our scientific and technological genius, he said, we have made of this world a neighborhood, and yet we have not had the ethical commitment to make of it a brotherhood. We must learn to live together as brothers, or we will perish together as fools. We are tied together in a single garment of destiny, caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, and whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be unless you are what you ought to be, and you can never be what you ought to be unless I am who I ought to be, what I ought to be. An interdependent sentence, if ever there was one. Rebecca Solnit affirms that his essential message was one of oneness, and that the things that seek to divide us are an evil we must seek to overcome. It seems to me that in these times we may be able to sense the forces that seek to divide us more clearly than we have before. This may be a blessing of sorts in times that are admittedly very, very difficult. When we feel dividedness within our own hearts, perhaps brokenness within our spirits. Yet as we commit ourselves to spiritual practices that support us in the process of growing ever more connected to love at the center, we can become more attuned to the ways in which we can attend to one another, and also to the ways that we have created barriers that perhaps we can have the courage to set down. Understanding ourselves as verbs rather than nouns, evolving processes rather than fixed entities, we may find the freedom to contribute our love, our energy, our small actions in this short time we have to the interdependent wholeness which we are only now just beginning to understand, to the magnificent unfolding interbeing of which we are a small part. In doing so, we may find ourselves awakened and lifted by a force that goes by many names and yet is beyond all naming. The Spirit of God, the breath of life, the force of love, which may be the best name that we can offer. And so may we align our hearts and hold fast our attention to the love that brings us alive and keeps us together through every sacred moment of this journey that we share. A few weeks ago, I wrote a song which I quickly realized is a worship song. And Suzanne was kind enough to pick it up and arrange it for the choir, so you'll hear it again. This is the original way it was written. It may evolve and change as it is part of your community as well. I wrote this song because I needed something to hold fast to when my spirit was feeling pretty fragile. I invite you to sing along. It's easy to pick up. And Suzanne will join me as well. Hold fast to love, for it's not broken. Hold fast to love, it will endure. Hold fast to love. Hold your heart open for all this hurt. Love is the cure. Hold fast to love. You can stand. It's staying right here, despite the ones who've lost their way. Hold fast to love. It shows the way clear, so we can face another day. Hold fast to love. It's in our voices. Hold fast to love. It's in our hands. Love's rising up to guide our choices. There is no storm love can't withstand. much for singing along and for your presence and your attention this morning.
Now it's time for our offertory. This congregation is a living thing, and like all living things, it's interdependent. It depends on the members who make it up. As we contribute to the life of the community, we affirm our lives within it. All contributions are appreciated by whatever method you choose to make them. Greeters, please bring the baskets to me when the money is collected. We will now pause, and Suzanne will lead the choir.
I'm going to teach you all a song. This is just a 4-line song. I've been taking a 6-week song-a-week songwriting class through the AUUMM, which is Association of Unitarian Universalist Music Ministries. And our first assignment was just to write a 4-line song for your community. Okay, so here it is. This was shortly after Helen Armstrong had done her talk on disability justice and community care. And the first line of the song comes out of the disability justice movement. Nothing about us without us. You can't make decisions for us without including us in the decision making. So I'd like to teach it to you, and we can sing it together with the choir. Why don't we stand if you'd like to? Helps to sing for some, not all. Nothing. So I'll sing a phrase, you sing it back. Choir, you can sing it back and support them. Nothing about us without us. Nothing about us without us. 'Cause no one is superfluous. 'Cause no one is superfluous. We need each other. We need each other. We gotta take care of one another. We gotta take care of one another. Nothing about us without us. 'Cause no one is superfluous. We need each other. We gotta take care of one another. Nothing about us without us. 'Cause no one is superfluous. We need each other. We gotta take care of one another. Nothing about us without us. 'Cause no one is superfluous. We need each other. We gotta take care of one another. Nothing about us without us. 'Cause no one is superfluous. We need each other. We gotta take care of one another. Take care of one another.
If you have found love and acceptance here, if you found a home here, if you have known kindred spirits here, this offering is a token of your gratitude for our common life as together we work to build the common good. I invite Wendy up to extend.
No, we still have a song to go, Peter.
Oh, yes.
Great. I'm going to teach you all the chorus to get you singing with the choir right away, but of course you're welcome to join on the verses once you hear them for the choir. Can we pull that up? Yes. So the chorus that always repeats is "Time from the Time Ferry Me." I'll teach you that. I'm in the wrong key. One second. Time, yeah. Time ferry me down the river. Time ferry me down the river. Friends carry me safely over. Friends carry me safely journey. Life and me on my journey. Love, call me home. Love, call me home. And just a little context for the song by Peggy Seeger. She wrote this for a friend of hers that was dying and sang it to her at her deathbed, just to say we need each other to carry each other through all of life, and sometimes even into death.
I invite Wendy to come back up and extinguish the chalice as we sing.
And I leave you with these closing words from the Unitarian minister William Schultz, who also served as executive director of Amnesty International. I invite you to join hands or connect in any way that is comfortable for you. We have a virtual connection here as well. We affirm that every one of us is held in creation's hand, a part of the interdependent cosmic web, and hence strangers need not be enemies, that no one is saved until we all are saved, where all means the whole of creation. Service is ended. Go in peace.